I think the real value of people coming to the course, for one, it's the environment that we are in when we are doing the course. So it's really an environment that is conducive to learning. It's really a place where we can, in many ways, forget about our daily issues that we grapple with and really focus on the content of what we're learning. But it's really an opportunity to come together as practitioners, as policymakers and so on, and to talk about the content, to share our knowledge, to share our experience, be exposed to people who are experts in the field, who have had a long history of working on issues of migration. And so the combination of the learning environment, the exposure to experts, the networking, the sharing of knowledge and experience, I think all of those really contribute to participants leaving with a sense of this was really worth doing. This has really been helpful in me going back to my country to do the work that I continue to do. So I certainly think, even though I'm usually here as an expert, I learn a lot from just the networking and the experiences that I share with participants. Migration and development has become an issue that's grabbed the attention of people globally. And it's really become an important issue because previously migration was understood to be a problem. It was very often discussed in negative terms. And I think probably about 12, 15 years ago, the idea of migration as a contributor to development, migration as a consequence of development, but in a sense very much inherent in development, has grabbed our attention. And the debate has shifted from saying, well, how do we make sure that migration does not remain in the discourse just seen as a negative issue, but how do we make sure that it actually becomes an important feature in our development planning, in our development thinking and practice and so on. And so we understand that it's not a one-dimensional issue, it's multidimensional. And so in every sector that we work, so whether it is agriculture or employment or education, we have to think about the impact of migration. What difference does migration make to the achievement of our educational objectives? What difference does it make in terms of our employment practices and our employment policies? So that's the one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is saying, well, how do we really take care of migrants in all the different sectors? So as an example, the children of migrants who need access to education. In our educational policies, we need to make provision for that, and we need to make sure that those are implemented. At a very broad level, nationally, almost all countries have some form of development planning. And again, almost all countries are affected by migration, and we need to take that into account and think about the impact of migration or the consequence of development for migration, both inward and outward migration. But I think it's often at the local level where it becomes a lot more possible to think about the management of migration and what we refer to as the mainstreaming of migration into development. And mainstreaming basically says that in every aspect of development we have to think about the issue of migration. It has to become a feature in our discourse in development planning. So at the local level, that's where the presence of migration is often felt and it becomes an issue, and therefore I think it becomes critically important that it's included. But of course, whatever happens at the local level has to be guided by our policies and our planning at the national level. And so the interconnectedness at the different levels of government, I think, becomes quite important. Historically, I would argue that migration was often seen as, well, it's just about people moving. I think more and more we are saying, well, its very basic element is the movement of persons, but who's moving, why are they moving, what are the consequences of them moving, and how do we ensure that it becomes a positive experience for all involved, is really for me what mainstreaming is about. The word mainstreaming sounds like it's a complicated thing, but it's actually not. It's essentially saying when we think about a particular sectoral policy, whatever the policy may be, let's ask the question, how does this affect migration? And let's ask the question, how does migration affect this? And if we can incorporate those sorts of discussions into our thinking and planning, then we're well on our way to doing mainstreaming.